Hey, what's going on? Luke here. For today's video, we're going to be talking about the South Sydney Rabbitohs in 2021. More importantly, we're going to be talking about why they need to win in season 2021. Now, I think if you've been a fan of Wayne Bennett for probably the last 10 years or so, probably since he left the Broncos originally, you've seen him at the Dragons, you've seen him at the Knights, you've seen him at the Broncos again. Now he's at the Rabbitohs. We've seen that his stints at clubs aren't particularly long. He sort of comes in, does a job, and leaves in 3 or 4 seasons. Now, he's only won the one premiership, that was with the Dragons, but he had Broncos up there in premiership contention. He's now got the Rabbitohs in premiership contentions. I mean, when he took over, they already were, but he's done a really good job considering the swap that him and Seabold did. I mean, we saw how the Broncos have gone since that happened. So it does show you Wayne Bennett is a phenomenal coach, but we've also seen that he kind of gets the best out of his players short term. He's not really a long-term coach, especially with this aging Rabbitohs side. Now, I will say, I feel like every team has a little premiership window, and I think the Rabbitohs might be at the back end of theirs, / maybe even gone past theirs. Now, in previous seasons, where I think they were at their peak, they had their guys like Adam Reynolds, Cody Walker, Damien Cook, Sam Burgess, Inglis was even still there, and they couldn't get the job done because there was also other really, really good teams in their premiership window too. You have teams like the Storm and the Roosters. I will say, however, those two teams, they seem to always be in a premiership window. I mean, every now and again, the Roosters, they drop off a little bit, but the Storm, they're just always up there, and I think they still will be. I think they're still in a premiership window, despite losing Cameron Smith, Cooper Cronk, Billy Slater. They've lost all these really, really good players, and they've replaced them with players who are like kind of just as good. We'll see how Harry Grant goes, but I think he's going to be incredible and a great replacement for Cameron Smith. But they're not the norm. They are not the norm. They're just an exception to the rule. I feel like every other team has their premiership years and then they drop off. Bulldogs, for an example, about 2012 to maybe like 2014, 2015, they were up there. They were sort of one of the better teams, and they drop off. And the reason is salary cap. I mean, the Bulldogs are even paying for it now. Another team is like the Cowboys. They're a good example of it. They had their premiership run, even the Broncos to an extent. They all had that little premiership run, and whether they win a premiership or not is not the point. The point is that they were putting all their money, putting all their chips in to say, this is the season that we really go for it. We've developed these players, we've brought across some of these players, and now we've got to win because these youngsters that we brought in for $200,000, by the end of their contract, they're going to be on $800,000, and this is their contract year. So we've got to win it right now, and I feel like the Penrith Panthers are about to experience that. We've already seen talks, guys like Stephen Crichton, we've seen guys like Matt Burton and stuff. Some of their fringe players are already leaving, and Penrith getting the shits about developing players and players leaving, but that's just the name of the game. That's just what happens. It happens to every club. Like I said, as soon as a team gets into a premiership contention, other clubs are going to be eyeing off your players because you're winning. You're a good player. There's a reason they're playing in premiership contending teams. They're not just some numpties just doing nothing. And I feel like going into 2021, we're at the point where it's harder than ever to have like a really, really, really good squad. Because I feel like, say Penrith, like I keep talking about Penrith right now, but as soon as there's a decent player, those guys who used to be on $200,000 and that they would just write out their contract, they'd be there for 3 years or whatever, and then they go for the upgrade. They just have a player agent come in and say, oh, they're really unhappy, they're homesick, they're not going to come to training, going to do this and that. Guys like LAA, he's done it recently. Even Ryan Madison. Ryan Madison is probably a perfect example of that. Goes to the Tigers, signs for $400,000, whatever it was. Tigers get a really good deal because they take a guy who was a bench player at the Roosters and turn him into a sort of a fringe New South Wales player. They turn him into at least in a contendership for it, especially in the back row where it's a really, really strong position for New South Wales. And he was getting talked about, and he still is, to be fair. But they had him on a good deal, you think, for the next couple of years. They got him for that money, and then they can invest in some other players, and then they can have like a good squad. But no, Ryan Madison wanted an upgrade straight away. Actually, I think he just wanted to leave. I don't even think he wanted to upgrade. He just straight up wanted to leave. But that's where teams got to get lucky. They got lucky that they find those hidden gems. Cody Walker was one of them back in the day. He was one of them on small money, but playing well above his means, well above his pay packet. And then that leaves room to sign guys like Latrell Mitchell and have your Greg Inglis's and that. You can have your big dogs, and you can also have these guys who are playing really, really well. Now, like I was saying with Cody Walker, he was one of them, and I think the Rabbitohs actually had a pretty good squad. They kind of figured out that. They had some backs who were kind of in that situation. They had some forwards. You had your guys like Sirinen and that. But going into 2021, they put big money in Jai Arrow. They've also got an aging spine, and I feel like the spine, obviously the spine is talked about as the most important positions in NRL. There's no way you can say it's not. Your fullback, your 5'8", your halfback, and your hooker. Now, fullback, they're kind of sorted. Latrell Mitchell, I think he's going to be an absolute superstar at fullback. I'm really keen to see how he goes at fullback. But what worries me is the rest of the side. Not because of their ability, but just because they're getting older. It's just natural. Now, everyone's probably going to look, and you're probably typing in the comment section below, but well, Cameron Smith, he played till he's 37. Cameron Smith's game doesn't revolve around having speed and doing that sort of stuff. Cameron Smith is like, he's just a tough player, and he's a smart player. He's really, really smart. And, Adam Reynolds, he's been having hamstring injuries. I was just watching highlights from 2012, the Bulldogs and Rabbitohs, and he bloody did his hemi there, and I don't think he's ever really went a season without having like a hamstring issue. It's always been a problem for Adam Reynolds, so he's already got some issues with injuries going into this season. You add in the fact that he's going to be 31, I believe, going into this season. So is Cody Walker as well. They're the same age, actually. And we're talking about speed, and that Cody Walker's game is purely about speed. He really relies on his speed. If he lost all of his speed, if he got a couple of injuries to his legs and like had a dramatic fall off in terms of speed, I don't think he'd be able to adapt, especially not at 31. Now, he'd probably still be a serviceable player, but the fact that you had Cody Walker, a guy who could play fullback and, play 5'8", and he's just so electric in that, he relies so much on it. So as soon as his body starts breaking down, I don't think there is a plan B for Cody Walker. Adam Reynolds might be able to get away with it because he doesn't really have speed to start off with, so I think he might be fine, but the problem is keeping him on the paddock. I feel like the Rabbitohs have really been hampered throughout the seasons where they've had injuries to either him or Cody Walker throughout large parts of the seasons, and it's really, really hampered their season and kind of ruined their season, because I feel like you look at the teams who win the premierships, they're always the teams that didn't really use many players, were kind of the fittest team, and also just had barely any injuries. I feel like that's a big part of it, and the Rabbitohs have a few injury-prone players. I mean, Adam Reynolds is a perfect example. Even when they get form, I feel like it stops him from making New South Wales side and stuff. I remember he was in the New South Wales side, and then there was talk of him getting back in, and I remember he got hurt again. A lot of them aren't even things that he can control. It's just falling awkwardly and stuff. But it's just a thing that happens, and the more injuries happen, the more they pile on. He's getting older. Cody Walker, another one. He's probably going to want to try and play for as long as he can, considering he only came into the NRL at about 26 or so. But then you add in Damien Cook, is also only a year younger than them, so he's getting older. And by no means are these guys washed up, but they're also at the end of their run, I guess, in the sense that look, they've probably peaked at this point. They're probably just going to be going downhill. And look, they're still going to be good players, but are they going to be good enough to win a premiership? They haven't done it so far when they're at their peak. Are they going to be able to do it now? Especially with teams like Penrith and that. They're on their way up. Well, Penrith are already sort of at the top. You got a lot of teams who are gunning for them. And the Rabbitohs, I think, if they don't win this year, I think they're going to fall off dramatically. Not because of the youngsters and that. I think the youngsters are good, and I think give them a couple of seasons and they'll be right back up there. But you've got, like I said, you've got Reynolds, you've got Walker, and you've got Damien Cook, who are all aging and all rely on speed, except, well, not Ab Reynolds, but the rest of them, they rely on speed. They're a fast-paced team, and once the speed starts to go, I think they're gone. Also, add into the fact that I believe Cody Walker, I feel like he sort of crumbles under the pressure a little bit. We've seen it sort of with New South Wales, but we have definitely seen it with the Rabbitohs. We've seen when the times have been tough in finals games, he sort of goes missing, even with how hot he was at the end of last season. Look, Cody Walker, you could argue he was the best player in the game at one point last season, but as soon as the finals hits, he sort of just takes a back seat and doesn't really do too much. Now, he's not playing absolutely terrible, but he just goes real quiet and just becomes like another average sort of 5'8", and Adam Reynolds sort of has to do everything, Damien Cook has to do everything. And Cody Walker needs to step up. He needs to step up for the Rabbitohs, needs to step up for New South Wales, because, look, it hasn't been good for him. He's had a couple of good moments in terms of for like New South Wales, where you look at him and you go, yep, this is finally a moment Cody Walker's going to kick on, become that super elite 5'8", but it doesn't happen. You see guys like Cameron Munster, they just thrive under that pressure, and he just doesn't do it. And that's why the Melbourne Storm are so strong, because they have guys like that, where the Rabbitohs are still trying to find their guy to do it. When they won the premiership, they had Luke Keary. What is Luke Keary good at? He's good at handling the pressure. Now, I know he only played that one Origin game and it didn't really go to plan, but we've seen him do it time and time again for the Roosters, where he just has that ability to just take over a game in a grand final, in a prelim final, in like a really important game, in an important moment. He puts his hand up and he goes for it. Where the Rabbitohs don't really have anyone who does that. They have guys like Adam Reynolds who try, but your Cody Walkers and that don't really give them too much help. And these are supposed to be your experienced guys in the side. And that's just where I feel like I'm thinking that they've missed their premiership window. And as much as I want to say Rabbitohs is going to be an absolute force and going to be a premiership contender in that, it's just, I'm sort of talking myself out of it when I talk about their lack of execution in important times. I mean, they've been able to get to the prelims nearly every year and they get knocked out every single time. And as far as I know, there's no sort of plan B once Adam Reynolds goes down or Cody Walker goes down. There's no prodigy in the halves. Like we saw with the Roosters, they were able to win with Jake Friend injured. They were able to just chuck in Sam Verrills and he was able to do a job, and the rest of the players were able to sort of carry them. Rabbitohs don't really have that luxury of having a guy who's super hyped up, able to just step in the halves and play a couple of games and lead them around, and then last minute if something happens, like say the grand final in 2014, Isaac Luke went down, Api Koroisau came in. We know how good Api Koroisau ended up, but he was just the backup at that point. I think it might have even been one of his first games. Might have been his first game, period. And he came in, he played hooker, did a fantastic job. The rest is history. Rabbitohs win. But yeah, the Rabbitohs, I feel like they're just really quickly running out of time to win a premiership, at least in this premiership window. But guys, look, don't be too worried. Look, if you don't win it this year, give it a couple of seasons. You never know what's going to happen. All it takes is a couple of signings, and like I said, all it takes is one of those hidden gems. Maybe Rabbitohs actually have a couple of hidden gems in this side that we don't even know about at this point, and then they're going to go on and they're going to absolutely tear up the comp, and maybe they'll win in 2021, maybe they won't. But one thing's for sure is there's going to be a lot of competition. We have Penrith, we have the Storm, we know they'll be up there. We know the Roosters, they will definitely be up there. They'll be so hungry after last season, going back to back and then getting beat how they did last season, going out 2 in a row. It's definitely going to be weighing on them, and I think the hunger will be back that probably was missing. So you definitely say they're a contender. Then you got teams like the Eels, you got the Raiders, you got teams who are capable of doing it. They just need to put together some consistency. But yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. The whole point of this video was to talk about the Rabbitohs and the fact that 2021 has to be the season that they win, because you never know what's going to happen with the injuries and how fast players fall off. Like I was saying with Cameron Smith, he's sort of the anomaly. He's not the norm. It definitely, players do fall off. We saw Jonathan Thurston went from being like the best player in the world, and his last season we're looking, he's like, whoa, is he even like first grade standard? He was playing pretty bad in that last year. It does happen. Players do fall off dramatically, especially when injuries come in, especially with age. It's just going to happen. It's just an unfortunate part of the game is players need to give it up in the end. But look, I'm not by no means saying the Rabbitohs this year are that. Not even next year, maybe. Maybe they'll be fine next year. But it just can go so quickly from, you have Damien Cook, New South Wales hooker, and then next year, maybe an injury happens this year, and he loses a bit of his speed, and next minute we've got Api Koroisau as our hooker. He wouldn't be the first one for that to happen. He also wouldn't be the last one for that to happen, because, aging just happens. It's a natural thing, and it's just an unfortunate part of sport. You see these guys who are so good, and they sort of phase out a little bit. But look, Rabbitohs, they might be able to hold it together for another couple of years. And we saw Sam Burgess is a perfect example of it. He was there, he was playing, and then all of a sudden just retired. He's just gone. Inglis, another one, went from being so dominant to just gone in a matter of a season or two. So, look, people might be looking at this and they might be writing in the comment section below, oh, Luke has no idea, what is he talking about, this is stupid, blah, blah, blah. But look, I think I actually have some merit to this, and I think there'll be a lot of people who agree with me too. So yeah, leave in the comment section below, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think I'm right? Rabbitohs supporters, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Is there any sort of prodigies coming through the ranks? Is there someone that we should watch out for? Maybe in the halves, have they got some replacements for your Damien Cooks and your Cody Walkers, Adam Reynolds, that sort of stuff? Or are they going to have to buy someone? Anyways, that's where I'm going to end this video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. If you go ahead and smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Also make sure to turn on notifications. It's very important. Let's be notified immediately that I've actually uploaded. Get a little notification on your phone. It's just something that everyone seems to push on YouTube these days, so I may as well too, right? Also, while you're at it, go ahead and give me a follow on social media. It's on the screen right now. Mr. Luke and YT for the most part. You also have Mr. Luke. It's just for that Facebook. But everything else is Mr. Luke and YT, including Snapchat. So go ahead and give me an ad on that. But yeah, that's where I'm going to end this video. Hopefully you did enjoy it, and I'll see you for my next video. See yous!